Are we?
Not all. Only partially.
Yeah, I get it.
Only a little bit in some ways, but not always. Yeah. I mean, I'm already tired before we started the conversation.
Right.
That can't be good. That'll make for an interesting episode and live stream.
Yep.
But I'm going to move forward as if we are here, because I don't actually know if we're here till our existence is validated by others. I don't know if the volume's working properly. I don't know if there's a delay. I don't know anything until somebody says something. Hello.
Hi.
Kayla Lords.
John Brownstone.
Of Loving BDSM, where we help kinksters like you have happy, healthy power exchange relationships. This is our weekly live stream. We record our podcast, the audio version of which hits all major podcast apps every Friday. We are here 6 minutes early. If you're here for the live stream but you don't like idle chit chat, you got a few minutes. If you're here after the live stream but before I put in timestamps and you don't like idle chit chat, fast forward by at least 6 minutes. If you're not new here, you know that it's never exactly.
If you know, you know.
If you know, I've said that a lot lately.
Yeah.
A lot. In different contexts, like just a lot. A lot. Okay. I am gonna say hi to y'all because that's what I do. How could I not? That's not cool. I don't like the thought of not doing that, but I want to put it out right now. We went back to our old way of streaming.
Yep.
To see what happens if there ends up being a delay on your end between mouths moving and sound coming out. Feel free to let us know. I know it's a different experience for everybody, apparently, at least in the beginning when the delays start up again. I don't know what we're going to do if it continues, because they do get real bad. They make for some real bad video quality. Okay. But well,
I have some ideas, and I told you we need to sit and talk later.
Yeah, and that's fine. We're moving forward. I just didn't need everybody to go, there's a delay. We know that's a possibility. But you are welcome to let us know so that we know how many people can see it. So, anyway, I'm going to say hi to folks. Hi, Kitty. Hi, Claire. Hi, Tayshu. Hi, Rara. Hi, Base Eats. Hi, SC. Hi, Mickey. Hi, Molly. And yeah, okay, Mickey's the first one to say they're seeing a delay. I'm not surprised by it.
No.
But I am annoyed about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The hard part was the way we were streaming last week and the previous 3 or 4 weeks, maybe a little bit longer, there was no delay. The delay went away, but the video quality was awful. I hated it. It was awful. So now, we will. Hi, Nathan. So we will just have to have that conversation and go from there.
Yep.
If any of what, you don't have to tell me now, this is not what I'm just putting this out here. Food for thought for you. Okay. If any of what you want to talk about involves changing things up, one, I'm open for it, but two, maybe it's time to change up some of the things that I was talking about. Do you remember what I was talking about?
No.
Our setup, our layout.
Well, but that's not going to affect.
No, it's just if we're changing things, why not do it all at once?
Right.
He's so fun. I'm so glad that I just put that out there. Food for thought. I know it won't change the problem. If we're going to make changes, I like to do them in one fell swoop so I can panic and then get used to it all at once.
Yeah. And some people see the delay and some people don't.
I know. And I have some experience from 100 years ago with some video stuff we used to do for the one site we did reviews for, where I pimped out your dick. There goes our monetization. And there was an issue with that when I recorded on my iPhone, which we're not recording on an iPhone, and then processed the video in some way and sent it to where it needed to be sent to. And I didn't do much to it. Some people, specifically in that case on Macs and Apple devices, had a delay, but people on Windows devices did not have a delay. And these things are we're not recording in the same way. We're not using the same machine. So I don't know if it's the same thing, but I've had experience with this and it was such a weird thing. And I don't think I ever fixed it. I think that they somehow did something on their end, but I don't know what. So I need to cough really bad. I It's that like annoying tickle thing in the back of your throat. Lola is snoring like she just got off a double. So, what anything? Thank you, Taste Shoot. Yeah. That feels pretty accurate.
Yeah.
And then I have that little thing of if I do not get the response that I expected, like I don't even know what to do with myself. No, I don't. Y'all know how I get about changes and doing things different and upsetting the routine. But once I decide I'm ready for a change, like I want to change, I'm ready to do it. And I have been asking about, hinting about, mentioning, and any other thing I can do with both direct and indirect communication about some of the setup changes for not 5 minutes. Let's put it that way.
I will talk a little bit more about what's going on with our setup and what I have been discovering.
Yeah, no, I mean, you already told me. I was just putting it out there.
I know.
That if we're doing things different, let's try
I get it.
Right.
I remember you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Sure.
I understood. I have some things I need to ask you that are not about this at all.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but might give you flashbacks because it's not pimping out your dick.
But
I mean, it could involve some things. Is that cryptic enough for anybody?
We'll talk later. We kind of know how I feel about that after the last experience.
It's not a job. Does that count? It's not that.
Maybe.
Apparently we're interesting again, and I'm starting to get emails from companies.
I mean, I don't mind being pimped out, but not to that extent anymore.
No, I would not do that to either of us. Hi, Junie. Hi, Yarn and Whiskey. It is.
Hi, everybody.
There you go. It is 1 o'clock.
Now it's official.
Get started. I don't know if the "as you can tell from the title" line works real well this time, because I didn't know how to describe what we're doing here. But hopefully the title makes it relatively clear. We played with a little bit of changes while we were out in public. It was an experiment. We're going to talk about it there. I'll get into it in a minute when we bring podcast listeners into the fun. If you enjoy this, we love a thumbs up. If you like it enough to come back for more, please consider subscribing.
And go ahead and ring that notification bell to get updates and new content.
Just do what Daddy says. If you really like what we do, you want to help us do more of it, you want to get a little bit more like access to a newly revitalized and reorganized Discord server, you can join us on patreon.com/KaylaLords. Link is down below. You can join for as little as $2 a month, and you get access to the Discord server. You get access to a behind the scenes podcast episode that we do every month. This year we are talking more about our power exchange and how things are going, because that's our focus for this year. We alternate months between a game night and a movie night. Game night, we play a bastardized version of Cards Against Humanity. It's delightful. And movie night, we're trying to watch the kink movies, but my hunt for a couple of movies that like we could make happen through screen sharing and stuff is like, it's a journey to try to find some movies, but we will be watching movies. So we watched Basic Instinct in February. Yeah, and it was the unrated,
Unrated, unedited
director's cut. So
yeah.
you saw everything, y'all. You saw everything. So yeah, that's our Patreon. If you can and want to, feel free. If you can't, that is fine. Just being here, talking to us in chat, liking the video, sharing stuff with your, personal kink community is more than enough. We appreciate you. Okay. Okay, so you can hit the button.
Okay, I'm crossing my fingers.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so for podcast listeners, we're time traveling. I literally don't know what the title of this episode will be for y'all. Because I haven't found the words to make this concise. But basically, what we're going to talk about is a thing we did this past weekend where we tightened up some rules that we already have as part of our power exchange, and then kind of played with some like in a light way. I mean, it wasn't like heavy-handed. Played with some rules and then went out into the public world where things can be more unpredictable than staying in our house. And it was an experiment, and it was one of, I don't know how many we'll do this year, but like these experiments to see, what did we decide to do? What did we think about it? How did it make us feel? How did it work out? As part of this process of like, what are words? Of focusing on our power exchange and reconnecting, because that's what we're doing this year, and going forward, but definitely this year.
Well, it was funny when we first started talking about doing this. I looked at her and said, "Oh, does that mean I can have slave Kayla?"
And I immediately got tears in my eyes. It was an immediate gut reaction of, I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that. So let's see if we can like lay this out for y'all. I did kind of make some notes to kind of keep us on track, but
kind of, sort of, maybe.
If I'm already like losing my train of thought this early, I don't know.
We're in big trouble.
Right. So I started with the why, and then we can get into the what.
Okay.
The why, from my perspective of what we did, was to like test old power exchange patterns. Some of these things that we did this past weekend, we used to do all the time.
We used to do it all the time, especially in the beginning, when we had a little bit more of a high protocol. Yeah,
and when we were just like, when we got to be together, we were just in our power exchangey selves. Like anytime we could be together. But sometimes it was because we were purposely going and doing kink things. Like when you're going to the munch or you're going to the dungeon, your head's kind of already there. And so it's easy to be in that headspace and do some of these things. Yeah. Over time, not just because of the craziness that we had for a few years, but just like, I think because long-term relationships can do this, some of these things fell away. Some of these things became less important. We just didn't focus on them.
Right.
So this was us focusing on things that we used to do more often, and some rules that have always been in place. We just get a little lax about them, and then to figure out how we felt about it and what our experience was. So the what? That's the thing, right?
Now meat and potatoes.
Right. So the what was, we negotiated. We knew we had a busy weekend last weekend, lots of errands, lots of going out and doing stuff, both Saturday and Sunday. And we agreed that we would basically tighten up the power exchange while we were out in public. I had rules that I always am supposed to follow, and then we just added a couple more. And y'all, this is not, when we tell y'all, hey, start low, start slow, start small, this is what that is. This is an example of that. Because when we sat down to negotiate this, JB said, oh, so like, I was like, I want to play with obedience and like rules, being out with you and whatever. I was like, I want to both do what you say and be like your little duckling who doesn't have to like, no brains, just, vibes, right? And he goes, oh, like slave Kayla? And y'all, I'm not joking. It was an immediate response
it was a very visceral reaction from her.
Right.
And not a good one.
My eyes started watering. I gasped and I went, not this weekend, no. So we can maybe work up to that. When I had that response, it was also internally an immediate, I don't think I can do that. Not I don't want to do that. I don't think I can do that. Not never, just not right now. So I got him to pull way the fuck back. And so the rules were...
the rules were, one, you had to ask permission to do anything.
Walk away, go to the bathroom, buy something. I always ask permission before we buy something anyway, but anything that could come up, I had to ask permission.
Right. I was the one that was to make all the decisions and no input, just me making decisions.
Right. I sort of, we never talked about this directly, but I sort of assumed if you wanted input, you would ask me, and then I would just respond.
Yeah. And, then it was just basically a lot of some of the things that we've already had in our power exchange, as far as not touching doors, walking on a specific side, things like that.
Yeah, it really was very simple. Now, in the negotiations, it was definitely like working an old muscle because I was partly proud of myself, but also it felt awkward. It has not felt awkward to negotiate I don't even remember the last time that happened, but we haven't actively negotiated anything in a very long time. So there was that moment of, oh, this feels like putting on a shirt that's a little too tight. Like, this feels weird.
Dusting off something that, yeah.
Yeah, but I was proud of myself because you know how you love to slightly joke, but not really, that I'll find a loophole?
Yes.
Well, I just asked about those in negotiations. So I was like, wait. I've got to ask permission for everything. Well, what if we're separated in a building and I got to go to the bathroom? I said, and I pointed out, I was like, I am at a point in life that by the time I know I got to go to the bathroom, it's time to go. Yeah. We're at a pee-pee dance level. And he goes, well, I guess you'll just need to text me then, won't you? I was like, okay, we're going that serious then. Okay. So, case in point, though, on the texting thing being imperfect, we did get separated in one of the places we went to purposely. Like, he gave me permission to go walk around. And he texted me asking where I was. And before I physically saw him, I was texting him back. And then I saw him, but I sent the text anyway. He did not hear the text come through. So that would have sucked if I'd had to go to the bathroom and we weren't standing next to one another. But some things I did purposely to get through this. So, since the ask questions, but don't just offer unsolicited advice and opinions, as I am wont to do in every facet of life. I got nervous that I would forget myself, that it's been so long that I would just blurt out whatever, right? Did you wonder or think that I might do that?
I did. I did.
Oh, and before we get into this, let me just say, for this experiment, there would not be crazy, harsh consequences.
No.
This was about, can we do this and how does it make us feel?
And how does it feel? Afterwards, what we like? Did we not like something? Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if and when we do some version of this again, we will modify that, and there probably will be consequences, because now we've had the first experiment, and I would say it went well from both our perspectives. Okay.
Absolutely.
So here we are. We're out. We went to 2 massive antique stores. We went to thrift stores. We went here. We went there. We went to get frozen yogurt, which was delightful. Several things. And that was just Saturday. So I did get worried that I would forget myself and just blurt out whatever thought might be in my brain. So I did what you would say is impossible, but clearly I managed it. I just stayed very quiet.
You did.
Unless I had something I was really part of the conversation. I just didn't. I let you lead the conversations. He's very quiet. There was not a lot of conversation going on. I kind of just, I didn't feel meek and mild. I just was like, I'll just exist.
Now, I will have to say, I was very impressed both days. Where I thought you would break away from this was when we were in the car, and you didn't.
No, and it was not as hard as I thought it would be. I was very nervous that I would just, especially now, y'all, if you've gone through the perimenopause episode, you know. My memory can be for shit, and also I'm a person that when I get enthusiastic about something, I get excited about something, I can forget some elements of discipline, right? And my big fear in negotiating this before we got started was I would have to walk around with the running mental, I can't think of the word I want, but basically the words in my head going, watch yourself, watch yourself, watch yourself. And I was like, oh God.
Commentary?
Yeah, and I mean, there's a word, I can't think of it, doesn't matter. But basically, I would just walk around reminding myself the whole time not to fuck up. And then I went, well, I could do that, or I could just not have much to say. And it was not a censorship thing. I wasn't having to bite back words. I wasn't having to change myself or change my natural exuberance. I was just like, I'm just gonna sit and exist, and when he wants to talk or he brings something up or he asks me a question, of course. Or the other thing I thought was, instead of stating things, if there's something I want to talk about, I'll just ask a question. Because asking a question implies I'm getting permission for us to start this conversation. Because at any point you could have shut down a conversation and been like, I don't want to talk about this right now. I would have done it. I would have respected it. I always would, but that might have hurt my feelings. I'm just saying. And that was not in an effort to make myself lesser or smaller in a way that is not healthy. It was not, I didn't treat it like it was potential punishment. I just went, instead of stressing myself out that I'm going to forget to do something or have to stop myself, why don't I just like chill and see what happens with that? But me being quiet is unusual. It is unusual.
It is.
Okay, I'm setting myself up for this, so just know that I know. How did you feel about, what did you think about that level of quiet?
It was different. It was very different because, normally, and you've talked about this in the past, you have become so comfortable with me and safe with me that you just say
all the things.
Who
needs to think things when you can just say them out loud?
At any point. And there was a part of me that was kind of like waiting for the shoe to drop.
I thought so. I did think so.
I was waiting for that shoe to drop, and it didn't. It didn't.
I was locked in. I was focused on what we were doing. It never felt bad in any way where I didn't want to be doing it. It felt unusual.
Yes.
I felt out of practice. And I actually it's been so long since we've done certain forms of like subtle power exchange in public that there was a time I stopped feeling awkward if I had to ask you a question somebody might hear. And this time, like we go into there's two antique stores that are across the highway from one another. They have their own individual vibes. From what we can tell, the first one we went into is run by, pardon the stereotypes, but sometimes they're true, run by men. And it looks like a place that is run by a certain kind of man who can put things in piles and he knows where everything is, but nobody else does. That's that antique shop. And then the antique shop on the other side is, based on observation, seems to be run by women, and it's very color coordinated and it's very delightful. Anyway, so we're in that first one it's antique-y, but it's also kind of junkyardy-ish, which is fine. I mean, we find interesting things. We enjoy being there. But we barely walked in. You found their first of many sections of just boxes of albums to rifle through. And thankfully, you didn't make me ask. I had to ask later, but you were like, go ahead.
Yeah.
But I actually expected at some point for you to make me stand there while you did a thing that would bore the shit out of me, because that would be we'd be playing with obedience at that point. I was kind of grateful you did.
Yeah, kind of did a little bit towards the end, but
yeah, but then I started feeling bad. So then I think you started feeling bad for me. Like I got this real bad headache, and I think it was the dust and the smells from just. If you go into a place, I find this true in thrift stores and at the flea market. If you go into places where there's just a lot of old things, used things that are carrying their own scents, pleasant or unpleasant, I tend to get a headache from that. There's something about the sensory input that's a bit overwhelming. So by the end, I did want to go, but I knew better than to say that. I was like, I'll just stand here patiently and he will tell me when we're done. But the first time, you were like, okay, go ahead. There was a lady in the section where you were going to look at albums, and I was like, I hope she's like in her own world, because you really were like, you may go. And I was happy for that, because I knew I would be super bored if I didn't, and my feet would start to hurt, and then I'd probably get whiny, and this would have been a different kind of experiment. But I also had oh my God, did that person notice? Were they paying any? I hope they weren't. That was that first moment of, oh, I've forgotten how to...
this is real.
Right. And also, I've forgotten what it feels like to be this way in public where others might hear. Like in the very, very beginning of our relationship when we did that, I was always a little embarrassed. I was always worried would somebody hear. And then there came over time, I was like, well, we're keeping it low key enough. They might think it's weird, but they won't think anything of it if they're even paying attention. And this time I was like, did that lady hear? It didn't matter. I wandered off. You did your thing. Then he texts me, where you at? I'm trying to text him back, but I see him. I sent the text and I watched because I'm like, oh, he said to text him. And I knew he sometimes doesn't hear text. So I was like, let's just. And then my inner good girl went, no. If you see him and you are not making sure he knows where you are in response to his question, you are going to get in trouble. So I sent the text. I waited a beat, felt guilty, started walking towards you. Because I could see where that was riding the line between, like, you were not asking where I was just for the hell of it. You wanted to either find me or for me to find you.
Correct.
If I had already found you and had done nothing about it, I think there would have been a reaction I did not enjoy, is all I'm saying. Even with no consequences in play, JB's almost never needed to do consequences. He can just give the look, use a tone, say a thing, and I'm like, I don't like this feeling. So I wanted to avoid that. That was very easy to slip into. I can see how I could, like, do this my way, or I can see how I can do this and be submissive and a good girl. And I was like, well, this is not that difficult. Let's go down that track. That's where I want to be. And that was kind of cool because it's very rare these days where I see that clear delineation because we're just kind of stuck in our habits and we do the same thing. That's why we had to take this outside of our house.
Right. And you know, the best way for me to describe this all is, you know how every day you commute to work and you take the same route to work every day, same route home every day, day after day after day, day in, day out. And then one day you decide to take a new route. You know, now the old route, you can pretty much just, you know, start your car and go on autopilot, and now you got to learn a new way, you know. And I think for me what it was, you know, I've talked about being more mindful of our power exchange, and this really kind of pushed that for me. You know, I had to be mindful, I had to be aware what what we were doing and everything. So that was a little different.
Was it different, good, different, neutral?
Neutral.
You notice I didn't say bad because if you didn't like it, I think I'm assuming I would have heard sooner than today.
Yeah. No, it was neutral. I definitely didn't not like it. You know, I did enjoy it. That was going to be my next question: is if you enjoyed that level of mindfulness of, because I felt like I needed to be aware of my own behaviors. I'm kind of always aware of you. I just needed to be more self-aware. Yeah. So what I'm curious about is on your end, did you need to be were you more self-aware or were you more aware of me or both or something else? Okay. Definitely both. Okay. See, I think, I kind of have the advantage. I'm mostly so attuned to you, which can be very annoying to him because I'll notice he's cranky before he knows he's cranky. Oh, man. So, like that, it was not being aware of where you were, of your mood, of what you might want. That was in no way new or hard at all. It was more of the self-discipline to what I was supposed to do. I get it. But I think that, doing it in this small dose and in this very specific parameters, the rule was basically from the time we get in the car at home to leave, from the time we get out of the car at home when we're done. Correct. That was the time for this. And that first day it was several hours. And through a headache. So that's look at me, I could still do it even with, was it a migraine? I don't know what it was. It sucked. There did come a point when
was it? I can't remember what shop we were in. Might have been the second antique store. It might have been one of the thrift stores we went in. But I had to ask permission. It was in one of the antique stores because we had stopped someplace where you could like look at these things, and I was like, I don't want to be here. So I asked. I said, "Can I keep on walking? Can I wander?" And he was like, "Yes, you may." I was like, "Okay, that's kind of sexy." Because you could have been like, "Yeah, sure," but there's something about getting the response from you as when you're in dom mode versus when we're just like, yeah, whatever, yeah. And it was strange because I hadn't heard you talk to me like that, and it wasn't, y'all, it was not special words, it was not a special tone, it was just, I think it was the intentionality of I had asked for permission and you were granting it, that it had just a different flavor to it. And that was kind of cool. And I was like, and I had, it's been a long time since I've had this, but I walked away and was like, he let me go and do this thing I wanted to do. I felt very special. It's like, my daddy said yes. And I don't know if any other sub out there can relate to that feeling of asking for the thing you want and getting it and knowing you got it from the dom, not just the partner. Like there's a different flavor to it, is all I'm saying. So yeah, that was fun. I ended up going to the bathroom in one of the places we went to. I had to have asked permission, but I have completely forgotten. I just remember I had to go to the bathroom. It was time. I don't even remember where we were. I don't even remember how that went.
I don't remember that moment either.
I just remember that the urge came, and I was like, I'm so glad I'm not trying to text through this because I got to go to the bathroom. That was the other thing that I would do it anyway because I kind of just like being near you. It's, you know, how that whole partnership thing goes, that whole love thing. But especially once I realized you might not hear a text, I was like, short of asking to walk away or being permission to go wander, I'll just stay close by. And that was, I hate to say that, felt new and exciting too. Because we have absolutely gotten into a point now that we do go to like antique stores or thrift stores, places where we can wander, and I don't like at the flea market. There's no wandering because I am overstimulated from the moment we walk in. He has to keep hold of me so that I won't just like freeze somewhere or burst into tears because my head hurts so bad. But like in these other places where there's space to wander, we have just gotten into this habit of for a couple minutes we'll be together and then we just break off and go do our own thing. Whereas this time it was only with permission. It was intent. Right. Even when we were apart, it was intentional. We had briefly, like seconds, talked about it, understood where the other was. It wasn't just a wandering off from each other, a mindless wandering off. And then, once I realized, that text thing might not work. So I was like, you know what? Here's how I keep myself in line. I'll just stay right the fuck here. That seems best. And it's a little bit like staying quiet so I couldn't let my mouth run away with me. It was on balance. It was kind of an easier way to go because I really did worry that I was so out of practice that I would fuck it up unintentionally. And there wouldn't have been some big backlash. But I don't like disappointed JB any more than I like angry JB. So I wanted it to go well. So I was being intentional and very focused on being the best baby girl I could be and making sure I didn't put myself in situations where I could accidentally break one of the rules or do something air quote wrong. It was just easier if I stayed within, and this was a me thing. This was not him demanding this and, wanting me to shrink myself in some way. It was more like, this allows me to do this thing and not get in trouble. And also, I was well aware that was different from our normal behavior. And if we're going to experiment, let's experiment with different behavior too, right? So, the other thing JB did, and this is not something we talked about specifically, it was just a thing he did. I think he picked it up from me going, I just want to be your duckling. I don't want to have to look across the street. I don't you just guide, right? You just lead. Everywhere he went, the moment we were walking towards the thing, like we'd get half a step and his hand was out, like, hold my hand. And I'm like, okay. And that was really nice because we have been holding hands more often recently when we're out in public.
Yes.
But it's either a thing that I'm grabbing for you or our hands just brush and we go, oh yeah, there you are, and we hold hands. This time through this experiment, his hand was out behind him because we don't have a rule I have to walk behind him, but he's leading the way, and hand behind him, and it was no question. Of course I was going to grab it. Like, of course. I liked that. That's something about you putting your hand out for me to take without, like, you're not looking at me, you're not questioning it. It's just an understood, if my hand's out here, she's going to hold it. Something about that makes me feel very submissive. Actually makes me feel the baby girl side, like that bordering on a little, I always say it's kind of in the spectrum of that. Like, that's when you're like taking care of me. You're making sure I don't like wander off and get lost anywhere. You're making sure you know exactly where I am, and that where I am is like physically connected to you. And I like that feeling. I really like that feeling.
Okay.
That feeling is nice.
Now, through all this, I have to say, I think there was one hiccup. We were at the flea market.
The flea market was a couple weeks ago.
Oh, a couple weeks ago. That's right.
We did. I mean, we outside of the experiment.
That's right.
We always have issues when we go to the flea market because I'm immediately overstimulated.
Yeah.
It's a very overwhelming place for me. I like being there. Especially when I'm looking for something, but I also hate being there. But what were you thinking of?
What I was thinking of, that when we were walking through that day, as we were getting to the back of the flea market, you were having a hard time.
My feet hurt. My head hurt.
Your feet, your head, everything.
Too many fucking people. People were too close. There was no personal space.
And there was a booth that I really wanted to walk through and see. But I knew you were having,
I was having a moment.
Yeah. And outside the booth in the main hallway there was a bench. And I told you to sit down and rest and wait for me. And you kind of pushed back a little bit on that.
Yes. Had we been in the experiment, I would not have. Mentally, I would have. I'd had thoughts. And here's what's funny. At that time, and this, again, y'all, it's like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's outside of the scope of this experiment. I could see myself pushing back, and I was like, because this experiment is a culmination of me trying to kind of just be more submissive on my own and not asking JB if he notices, if he cares, if this is the way he wants me to be. I was just like, let's see what happens if I try this. What happens is I shock the shit out of him. But because there was nothing negotiated or organized, and we weren't both on the same page about it, parts of my very natural personality were coming out. And there was one time you were like, I want you to sit here and I will be back. And the social anxiety side of me went, no, I don't like that. And I pushed back then because I had this, like, how long are you going to be gone? And, all the not at all rational thoughts that I get when I'm in spaces around there's too many people. Like, I know it's not rational. I know other people would be like, oh, well, why don't you just do this? Well, if my brain would fucking let me, I would. But what's happening to me is I'm internally panicking over a thing that hasn't happened yet, but it might happen, and I might not know how to handle it, and what am I going to do? And yeah, I know I'm a functioning adult. I get it, but whatever. So that time I was like, nope, I don't want to be left here by myself. And the second time, you were like, I'm going in the bench and the booth were 10 feet away. Yeah. You're like, I'm going in that booth. You sit right here. And I went, okay, not a problem. Not a problem. Yeah. And I was grateful to sit down, but that was outside of a negotiated parameters. True. And so I wasn't watching myself as closely as I was this past weekend. Yeah. And this weekend will be quiet. We won't do much, but I think the following weekend we'll probably go and do a whole bunch of things. Yeah. And we might try this again with stricter parameters or, whatever.
Yeah, we need to make a trip to the downtown market one weekend.
I know, I need more soap from that soap maker. So yeah, I mean, overall, the experiment, I I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I reminded myself that I like how this feels. I had to remind myself of what it feels like to be bound by, okay, subjective term, strict rules. Some people go, those are not strict rules. For us, they were. I've been speaking my fucking mind for a decade now. It's very rare.
Let's put it to you this way. What I found the nicest, many times when we're out and about, I will get, why are you going this way? We're going there, but why are you going this way? You should be going that way.
You take what I say that way sometimes, in fairness to JB. Sometimes, yes, I do say it that way, especially over the past few years. But lately, as I've tried to be more mindful, you are primed to take it that way. What I'm trying to do is get information because I want to understand what's happening. So you like to take multiple different routes to the same location. Mm-hmm. I have grown used to that. I do not. I like to just go the way. Because if I have to think, every time I try to think about different options I have, I overwhelm myself because I'm like, well, this one, here's the downfalls of doing that one. But if I do this one, here's the things that might annoy me on that. And then I'm like, don't make a decision. And it's fucked up and I know. But you like to do it so often. I just like to check in. It's anxiety talking. It's not anything else. Mm-hmm. And check in and make sure I understand what's happening. Now, in years past, that is not what was, that was what was happening, but it was not done in any way, shape, or form that make me appear submissive. Okay? Because those were times I think my anxiety was riding me and it was overriding every other part of my personality. That's a thing for me to work on. I'm not saying, well, that I should just be excused. That's just what was happening. This time, over the past few weeks, let me say that, what I'm doing is going, I'm trying to ask, are you taking this alternate route? Because I just want to know where the fuck we're going. That has nothing to do with you. That's not about your ability to drive. That's not about whether you're going the, quote, correct way. It's just, this little anxious brain just needs to know where she's going. And I'm trying to check in because, and here's the thing, and this is a long-term relationship thing. I am sure it happens to anybody and everybody of all flavors and all sides of a slash. But the longer you are with somebody, the more you will see when because they're not thinking, because they're tired, because they're distracted, they'll make little mistakes, right? Like people do. Mm-hmm. Well, I am a service sub with anxiety. If I can do something that will prevent you from making a mistake, I'm going to try to do that.
You're going to jump in there.
I've been using my submissive voice to do this over the past couple of years. No, I have not. No, I'm not. But we talked about this before. We were talking about kind of coming out of the stress. When it feels like every decision you make is it has to be done correctly, or you've created more stress for yourself. There's going to be, you've made a mistake that's big enough to feel. That's where that comes from. You're, trying not to make these mistakes because they'll cost you. They'll cost you time. They'll cost you materials. They'll cost you money, right? These days, it's more two things. Anxiety of, I don't want him to be wrong and then have to feel whatever he's going to feel about being wrong. That's not healthy. I know, but that's how I am. But also the running joke, that's not really a joke in our relationship, is if JB makes just a basic little mistake, but I knew what was happening, he will go, well, why didn't you say anything? And I have to go because when I do, you get mad at me. So I can't win no matter what. And then when I say that and I complain, he gets to do his sadistic chuckle because he knows I'm right. So there's all these factors are all coming into play when I start, and I've, like I said, past several weeks, I've tried to be really mindful and do it in what I perceive to be a submissive way and not say, well, why are you doing it like that? And more like, oh, is this what you're doing? I just want to know if I'm right. Am I understanding it right? Because how many times have you almost turned where you didn't mean to turn, and I have to go, oh, weren't we going a place where he should have kept going straight? And he goes, oh, fuck yeah. And he swerves us back into,
yeah.
And I'm going to say that is the fine.
You have done that a few times, and it has, yes.
That is the fine line of service when that service is those kinds of things. When it's not the activity, when it's guidance, it's advice, it's information based. I am supposed to communicate information to you.
Right.
That means there will be times that I don't win that argument no matter what. Because either I tried to offer information that you didn't need, and so now I'm a know-it-all who's just trying to tell you what to do, or it was information you needed, but you were a little annoyed with yourself that you needed it, but we project that on others, or I don't say anything because the last 3 times he was annoyed because he didn't need the information, but I thought he might. So I don't offer the information. And then he's like, but why didn't you tell me? And that's when my head explodes. Okay. That's when there's just bits of brain inside the car.
See, in my mind, I know I do that. I
think most people do that. It's just a thing.
And I really thought recently that I have been not doing that as much.
I think you have been better about it, yes. These disparities in trying to serve with information and knowledge and advice and whatever, the worst times we've had at it are the times we've been the most stressed. Because that's not a time when we're hearing each other. And it's also a time when our responses to one another are part of our anxieties. They're stress responses. Yeah. We're like, we don't have a calm conversation. We come into a air quote conversation ready to do battle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think we've done that for just long enough that we're both primed for each other's worst responses. You are primed for me to go, why are you doing it this way? What's happening? And that was never about you, your dominance, your ability as an adult, none of that. You being my partner has never been about that. That is anxiety on my part, trying to get the information I need to figure out what's going on so I am prepared. That's all that's ever been. Likewise, me letting you know or asking, is this what you mean to do? Is not a criticism of yours. It's an acknowledgement that sometimes you forget where you're going. You get into autopilot.
I go into autopilot, and
right. And it's acknowledging that you're fallible. Like, you can make mistakes. You have made mistakes, but it's not a critique, right? And yet, I think what has happened in the recent past is you've just kind of wanted to be left alone to do the damn thing. But as a traumatized people pleaser, that's for me and a therapist to talk about my childhood. You making the mistake and then the aggravation that comes from making the mistake is more than I can bear. It's more than I can handle emotionally and mentally. That is my problem to go work out, but that's what happens. So I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure you can't make a mistake. Is it driving you fucking batty? Is it making you question whether I am even submissive or not? Right. I'm not saying it's a good coping mechanism or strategy. Just saying it's the one I've used. So this weekend, what makes all of this relevant is this weekend during these very specific parameters, there was none of that. I just kept my damn mouth shut. Do you know what happened? Oh my God. I hate to admit this to you because you'll want to do this more often. Negotiating these rules and how we were going to be in public and me deciding just stay quiet unless you got something you really need to say, just chill, just let him talk, let him lead the conversation, and asking questions instead of making statements. Blah, blah. I was less anxious while you were driving.
Really?
I was sitting there, my brain got quiet, which is just rare in general.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I was really focused on the power exchange. I was really focused on my role and, what we were doing and how I felt and what it meant and blah, blah, blah. And I was focused on not doing what I usually do. And something about that, I am not smart enough to know what that is. I'm not educated enough to know what that is. But something about that moment, the only time I got nervous while we were riding around was when some dumbass in front of you did something stupid and you had to react. Not just because you're out here driving and what. And I I don't know if it showed, but I felt much calmer, much less anxious. The anxiety, it's always there. It's always there. But it was massively decreased. It was so much less.
It was. It absolutely was. And, this did not come about with the experimental weekend, but I'm going to tie it in. When we're getting ready to go out, a lot of times I'm ready before Kayla is. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting waiting. And then she'll get ready and she'll come and she'll just quietly sit.
And not even when we're going out, when we're planning activities too. Yeah. Things we need to get done. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know where you're going with this.
And she'll just sit, and most of the time I'm playing either my game, the Rise of Cultures, or I'm doing solitaire, and she just, comes out, sits down, and just quiet. And I keep doing my thing. I'm like, why didn't you tell me you were actually ready?
And I said, because you were in the middle of something, and I figured when you were done, you would say something.
So I turned to her, and I said, baby girl, I said, from here on out, moving forward, when you are ready, regardless of what I am doing, you tell me that you are ready to go.
That was the return of your Domley stern voice. I had not heard it in literal years. I'd heard you be angry and annoyed, but not with the dominant tone on it, just the exasperated man tone.
Yeah.
And there's a difference. I'm sorry if you have not experienced it. There's a difference. Mm-hmm. And so that moment, here's the thing. I think the reason we could do this particular experiment is because we've started doing these things on our own without a formal set time parameters, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Like we did this past weekend. It started, and it's when I admitted it to you. It started when I was like, I'm just going to be a little duckling and follow him, right? And that felt really good. And, over time, we've relaxed enough to kind of start feeling that dom sub roll a little bit, but not in a planned way, right? And this happened before this past weekend because I think I mentioned it in an intro to something, a podcast episode, a video, I don't remember, about you using your stern voice, and I hadn't heard that voice in a very long time. And it's I don't know, I'm sure others can relate to this, but I hadn't felt it in so long, it was foreign. So there's when you were saying that, there was the understanding that you were correct, because I was taking advantage of the fact that I didn't want to do the thing we needed to do, and he was busy, so I'll read my book over here, right? I knew what I was doing. So there was this brief flare of the shame I feel when I'm called out, when I'm found to have done something wrong. Again, that's for me and a therapist whenever that day comes again. Because but I know where that comes from. And then I know why I'm always trying to be a good girl and I'm a people pleaser. I know where that all comes from. So there was that, and it's just a flare of feeling ashamed because I did know better and you were unhappy and here you are with your stern voice and that's not fun. And that, thankfully, and I think it's because I know I'm safe. You are my safe person. Even when you're angry at me, you still love me. I cannot tell you how many years it's taken for me to internalize that. Just saying. Way longer than we've been married, if that helps you.
Oh, goodness.
And then on the back side of that, there was this, ooh. I feel kind of submissive. Yeah, I'll do what he says. No, I mean, I could have been like, whoa, time out. Let's negotiate this, right? And there are times you'll make a pronouncement, usually out of anger, not always with your dom voice.
No.
And I'll go, time out, let's talk, let's negotiate this. This, no. One, I knew what I had done. Okay. I'd been like, look, he's playing his game. I'll just read my book some more. He'll tell me when he's ready. Knowing that I get lost in my book and he'll get lost in his game and we won't get anything done.
Right.
So, yeah, it was this the flare of shame and then the like spike of, ooh, that makes me feel submissive. Ooh, I've missed that, was so, like, they were almost on top of one another. So it was this really strange, I can kind of still feel it when I think about it, because I wanted to both cry and giggle at the same time, but the effect of it, past that like 2-second blip of emotion, was, yep, that's what I'm going to do going forward. You're right. And I didn't even question it. And it then became a point of conversation, because I was like, you haven't used that voice in a long time.
Yeah.
Now, I know you did that out of a certain level of annoyance or aggravation, but when you did that, how did you feel? Beyond the annoyance / aggravation.
Empowered.
Nice. I mean, that's...
Yeah.
Now, we haven't had a lot of situations for that recently, but they have come up. Even today, I did what you told me to do, and I let you know that I was done. So that, how does it make you feel when I continue to do when I do the thing that you told me to do?
It makes me feel proud of you that you're doing.
Oh, I wasn't even going for that, but okay.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I was thinking about how you feel in your dominant self, is really what I was thinking. I mean, thank you for being proud of me, but no. Sort of like how I can still, I can remember that feeling I had when you got on to me, and you can remember feeling empowered. Does any of that empowerment carry over for you when you recognize that a rule that you set is being followed or your instructions are being followed?
It definitely does. It definitely does. I lost it. I wish I didn't what I was thinking while you were talking there, but I can't. No, I can't. I can't get it back right now.
I understand.
Yeah.
Believe me. Podcast hosts who lose their train of thought in mid-sentence, because we're professionals. We're the best. We're so good at this.
How long have we been doing it?
Right. Only 10 years.
Yeah.
So that was a windy way to talk about the grand experiment and how it connects to past and present stuff, because this wasn't like a thing that came out of nowhere. We were leading up to this. I was doing some of this on my own, but then wanting to know how it made you feel. And I was like, but that's not fair, because I haven't clued him into what I'm fucking doing. So how is he even aware enough to think about it, right? But in the conversations of telling you what I had done in those, when we went to the flea market, when we did this, when we did that, something was happening, because you had that moment where Daddy Dom's stern voice came out. I don't like that voice, but I do respect it. And so, you had that moment, and then here we are. We sat down, we negotiated. You were very pleased with yourself when you were like, oh, so we'll do slave, Kayla? And I was like, I mean, y'all, my reaction was so immediate.
It was.
I was like,
damn.
When I talk to y'all about figuring out your limits, and I'm like, sometimes you just know, it was a knowing. I was like, it was not a never, because as an experiment, I would try it. But it was a knowing that, no, I'm not ready for that. Yeah. We're not there yet. So all of those things are intertwined, because it all leads to what we did. And what we did, I recognize, will sound very slight and small and like it wasn't a lot. But it was outside of our current, air quote, normal behavior, even though I think we would both like to be more like we were this weekend while we were in the experiment than we have been, because what we have been is, from my perspective, so loose and relaxed that I let my anxiety override my submissive nature. You get frustrated with it, but don't allow your dom self to take care of it. It's the frazzled, frustrated, stressed man who's like, I know, woman, stop being crazy, right? Like, and so I think it's safe to say we would want more of what we had in the experiment. Yes. That's kind of what we'd like to get back to. But it was, to me, it's proof of concept of trying things small and a very narrow parameter at first, there's a lot of information in that, and that is enough to get you started, because that was from that we're talking about all kinds of stuff, and we're relating it to all kinds of stuff, and we are aware of past behaviors and past feelings and how it all connects, and here we are. And I think is it fair to say that the outcome of this experiment is we would like to do this more often and not as an experiment? Would
Correct.
that be
Absolutely
right? So now I have to say, I can't be quiet on every outing. I've got too many thoughts. They will come. I also think I'm funny. So, but am I willing to practice that mindfulness of, I know that I have the freedom to say what I got to say, but I don't always need to. I can just sit back and let you just be in charge, you know?
I mean, I will say this, aside from, you know, the feeling of empowerment from this as a big D, I liked it. I enjoyed it. Definitely want to do it again.
Do you want it to become our new normal when we're out? And in that form, or do you want to go deeper into the experiments before we decide?
I think I'd like to go deeper. I mean, you know, like I was saying before, aside from feeling the empowerment too, it forced me into the mindfulness. It made me be aware of the moment and things and what was going on. And I like that, because I have not been that way.
No,
Okay?
neither of us have been.
You know, with life as it had been, I had not been that way, and it felt damn good.
Was it a little bit like a break from our air quote new normal that we didn't want to have, but we just had found ourselves there? Was it a break from it? Was it a vacation from it? Was it like how?
It was like a breath of fresh air. Okay.
I think I feel the same way. I ended up, by the end of the first day Saturday, I ended up with such a bad headache that I couldn't function once we got home. It took a while. So I remember much of it, but by the end I didn't get the opportunity to like sit with my feelings. I know that it felt like exercising an old muscle. So there were these points of like, I guess to keep the analogy, there was some soreness. And for me, it was like, uh-oh, am I going to remember? Like, how do I navigate this? Right. I'm completely with you on the mindfulness, because it was purposeful and intentional. I had to think about my role and who I was and what we were doing. And
it makes you think about every action that you take too.
Oh my God, being aware of like absolutely everything. And a breath of fresh air is, I think I agree with that. I think I had a similar thing, because I worried that I would forget shit and I would fuck it up, like a lack of confidence. And what I found, even as I felt yuckier and yuckier as the first day went on, a Saturday went on, it was not as hard as I feared it would be. And that feeling of it's not truly natural, because given my druthers and under stress, I resort to a lot of words and a lot of questions and a lot of anxiety. But natural enough, because it's how I want to be with you and how we used to be. And I think that naturalness is it was remembering this is what it used to feel like, you know, because I knew we were focusing on the dynamic and the moment and us, but that meant you were focusing on me. And that makes me feel special and cared for and cherished. And those are some of the feelings that I'm seeking as a submissive. Yes, I want to serve and I want to make you happy, and I want to please you. Like, there's all of that, but I also want to be your focus at times, right? Like, I'm a grown up. I know I can't be your focus 100% of the time. That's not realistic. But we had gone from the way it used to be, where there would be, sometimes it would be specific times. We knew we were going out. We knew we were just spending time one-on-one together, and we were focused on each other. And then life shifted, and we had to focus on all these external things. And then that became our new normal. And even though we didn't really like it, I don't think we understood why we were feeling the disconnect. We were just like, oh, we can't do kink things and we can't do power exchange things. We just don't have the time and energy. But for me, what I'm realizing is it was never about the activity. It was never even about the rules. It was about feeling
away.
Feeling what?
Feeling a way.
Yeah, but a very specific way.
Okay.
Feeling like I was the center of your world, and that you are the center of mine, because it is true, especially when we're in our DS selves, like deep in it, because you are focusing on me to make sure I'm, doing the thing I'm supposed to do, to make sure that, my behavior is on point, whatever it is you're looking for. And you are the center of mine, because I'm like, is he happy with me? Am I doing the thing? I need to ask him a question. He's the decider in all things. Yeah. And I feel like this past weekend gave me a taste, a deep taste of what that used to feel like. And now I know what I was missing. And I feel like I can even point back to times when we were miscommunicating with one another, when we were saying the same thing, but somehow still mad at one another. And I think part of that was, I don't think we were feeling seen by the other in the way that we are when we're deep in our power exchange.
I agree with that.
And there used to be a time when this was just sort of natural.
Right.
It's not, is it natural? I don't know, debate. But for us, it became natural for me to just let him lead when we were doing whatever, and to ask permission for things, and to wait to be told things, and to, there was a time in the not that distant past when that's just how we interacted, because that's how we got to experience our power exchange, because we, people can see us and we don't want them to know what we're doing. So that's part of how we did it. And that feels like, this is going to sound very trite, whatever. It feels like coming home again.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad we did the experiment.
Same. Same. For science.
For science. Yeah. Science purposes only.
Yeah, right.
The next conversation to have, which we might have when we are planning our next, deeper experiment, is how much of this I'm not saying we have to have the conversation now, but the next conversation is how much of just that little experiment do we keep going forward, and then add to it as we try these new things. And I'm calling them experiments because we do it and then it becomes content. So it's an experiment.
Yep.
But, if we were not doing this weird thing on the internet, it would just be a thing you try, right? And then you come back to one another, have the conversation, and go, okay, what do we keep? What do we not, right? For us, it's like, okay, we'll take this deeper and deeper. But I think as we're going, we'll pull the things that we know are like, this is a thing,
And I think it's like anything else. As we move forward with this, we're going to find things that, oh, I really like this. We need to keep doing this, and push it to the side.
Or that's just like, that's a party trick. We can't do that all the time.
Yeah.
We do that some of the time.
Right.
Expecting me to be quiet on every car ride, don't do that to yourself.
I know that. I've been,
Well, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, so I don't have to ask you to do it. I think part of the draw in our attraction to one another is you do like for me to tell you what I'm thinking, and to hear my thoughts, and to share my inner world with you. I have no doubt you'd like me to do that a little less and at a lower volume. But
it's funny because if y'all haven't noticed, if you're new here, I'm the quiet one.
Yeah, we just recorded something that we'll talk more about in a couple weeks. That is for not just y'all, but people who don't actually know us. And I already know the comments are going to be like, she sure does talk a lot.
Yeah.
Who's the dominant here? Who's the submissive? I know.
Yeah.
But I'm a lot more unapologetic about that. Yeah. But I also get where I can see it now because we have the direct comparison.
Yeah.
A lot of, I'm not just sharing inner world, inner thoughts, my personality making you laugh. Yeah, but also because you're the safest person I know, you're getting all of my anxieties. But they don't come out as, Daddy, I'm really worried about this thing. They come out as, why are you driving like that? And, you know, what I like is kind of having this conversation specifically, but being on the other side of like having a moment where I just intentionally did not do that. I can see it. I can see it for what it is. In the moment, I'm just like, I'm just trying to navigate life. I'm trying to make sure everybody has everything that they need. And I'm trying to make sure my daddy can never make a mistake ever, because that is somehow the worst thing ever. It's not. No. It's not. But that's all anxiety. And it's easier to see now. I think you see it now, but that doesn't change that it's probably exhausting. It's exhausting for me to feel it, so I can only imagine what it's like to experience it full force. Gale force winds of my anxiety. No, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I'm so glad you love me. And if I ever doubted it.
I did it to myself.
You really did.
I did it to myself.
Y'all, I do walk around reminding him when he gets, in a funny way, like a jokey way, about whatever, some trait of mine. I'm sure. Pick one. Whichever one of me that you go, well, that's a little much. That one. What? I just remind him, you chose this. There was never false advertising here. Before he said I do, I was like this. That's what you get for being a safe person. I don't know what to tell you. You did that to yourself too.
I did.
So, yeah, that was the little baby experiment.
Yeah, and it was cool. It was fun.
Yeah, well, we're having a quiet weekend this weekend.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure because I think we're slowly like coming back to certain ways of being that we used to have. There's more asking, there's more this, there's more that. I think some of that will just, I hate to use the word naturally, like it's just, it occurs in nature somehow. And that's not really it. It is a mindfulness. It's a changing of patterns and behaviors. But these are the ones that we got into so deeply before that it feels natural to be coming back to it. I think some of that's probably going to just kind of naturally occur. And then we'll have another big weekend of nothing but errands and God help us, the flea market.
Yeah.
Slight aside to that is not about our power exchange, but it's about our relationship with one another. Before you started to understand potentially how my brain is wired, you would get very frustrated at me, at the way I reacted when we would go to a flea market or we'd go to a crowded mall.
I did because early on I did not understand.
Right. And I'm not saying this is a critique. I'm trying to, eventually I'll get to the compliment.
Okay.
But you have listened, you have learned, you have paid attention, you've gone off and gathered information of your own, and now you are, I will go to those places that overwhelm me because what you started doing without me having to ask for it, you just understood it, is you do your best to shield me and you check in enough to be like, is it too much? Can you handle it? Can we keep going forward? My favorite is just you hold my hand and you'll bump into other people before you let them bump into me. I mean, has he almost knocked some old ladies around? Sure. Was I mad? No. I mean, I do feel like I have to tell you to lower your voice every time we walk past a 47 loving stall where it's all these fucking flags. It's like, do you have to fly the flag once you've won? I don't think you do. I've heard of sore losers. I've never heard of sore winners, but here we are. So he gets a little cranky about that, and I'm like, shh, these people have guns. Shh. Watch yourself.
Here,
we're an open carry state. Shh. But other than that, me protecting you in that situation, you do like this really nice, sweet, good job of like, and it's just one more sign of how we've grown together.
Yeah.
Could I keep talking about this? Of course I could, because now I'm like swimming in my relationship feelings. but we can stop.
Okay.
We can do a bonus section.
All right. So, are we good?
I don't know.
Keep it kinky, y'all.
And we'll see you next week. Daddy.
Yes, baby girl.
Can we talk to the crickets?
Yeah.
I thought you said, thank you, by the way. I thought you said there was something you were going to talk about in the bonus section.
In regards to the computer.
The computer, okay.
Yeah. Our quirky little issues.
Yeah, well, the issues with recording, the issues with video, or the issues with the box itself.
All of the above.
So
all of the above.
You had said we had to have like a business meeting at some point, and we haven't yet, but we will. Is it, in your mind, a possibility or a definite that our audio recording and our video recording issues are linked to a dying box? Not dying, but maybe a crowded box? I'm talking about the computer that we record on.
Yes, crowded.
Crowded.
Definitely crowded.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Folks understand when we bought this machine, it was a few years ago, 4 or 5 years.
2020 was when we moved in here because we had a recording space.
Right. And at that time, the computer came with a SSD drive, which is a totally digital drive, hard drive. No mechanical parts. Downside to those drives are they in the past have tended to be rather small. And we started having the problems. I saw that the hard drive was filling up. And I went through, I uninstalled a lot of programs, freed up some space. But now Microsoft has determined that this computer needs to eventually be brought up to Windows 11. So every week, pretty much, there have been updates to this machine. And that little bitty space I freed up on the hard drive going away.
Because of the updates?
Yeah. Yep. And, then when you open a program, the programs, they expand when you open, and they need space on the hard drive to be able to run, and it's not there. That's why we're having problems.
Gotcha. And this computer is dedicated to just recording.
Right.
Like, we're not using it for other purposes.
Correct.
Right. It is just recording.
It's hooked up to the recording equipment, and that's it. That's what it does. So, yeah.
Yay! So now I'm thinking, we have to buy potentially a new computer.
Not necessarily.
Okay, good, because I was about to do the plug for Patreon again. Be like, I'll join our Patreon so we can buy equipment.
Not necessarily so. I'll have to see if I can find the disk that came with it for the operating system, and see if I can upgrade the hard drive.
Gotcha. If you cannot upgrade the hard drive, should I beg people to join our Patreon so we can buy a new computer? Is that the step? Okay. Don't worry. You can ignore it now. We were going to try the cheap way.
All right.
And I do joke and kid, y'all. Yeah. I do. I have never really felt comfortable going, we're really poor. Who will join our Patreon? I don't like that vibe. I don't like that vibe at all. That reminds me of too many YouTubers who get on a camera and cry and then end it with, but you can buy this. And I'm just like, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. That doesn't leave a good taste in my mouth.
No. So that's kind of where we're at with the box and the little quirks we've been having. And why and...
Yeah, so if you're watching on video and you're like, I'm really tired of there being a delay, we are too, and also it could be related. Yeah. And if you're listening and you're like, something about the sound isn't quite the same, we know. Yeah. We're working on it. We're working on it.
Yep. So, yeah. So what do you got?
I just bared my soul on the podcast, so I feel kind of empty.
Okay.
I will say that I did have to pay the piper of my procrastination this week. So that super secret, because we'll talk about in a couple weeks, video that we did, which actually then led to an idea of a longer term series we're going to do later in the year. So that's very exciting, because I like it when the content ideas already exist. Thanks. I've known that we needed to do the video for like a month. I procrastinated on writing the script. That is one that I write a script for. We don't follow it word for word, but we use it as guidance.
Bullet points.
Yeah. And it helps me if I'm typing it out of what I want to convey. Something about that will stick in my brain and I can usually remember to say it. I don't know what that's about. So we were supposed to record last week, which was already pushing it a little bit. We could have done it 2 or 3 weeks ago. But then things came up, and I think I wasn't feeling well, and I think you had a moment, and just...
my lower back was acting up a bit,
And then we were going to record this past Saturday, but that's the day I got my headache from hell that... I don't know what caused it. Maybe I do. I don't know. So we're like, no, we won't do it then. So then Sunday, because it was due Monday, and I had to edit the fucking thing. So Sunday we recorded, and I was like, I should start editing today. That would be the smart thing. I did not edit on Sunday for something that was due on Monday. And this is a thing where I have to do heavy fucking edits because we have a time limit for it. We talked for 47 minutes. I got it down somehow to 29 minutes and 52 seconds. But it took 4 rounds of editing to get it there. And and I was doing that all on Monday. And then as I'm ready to export the video so it can be uploaded and sent in like it needs to be and blah, 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 my computer crashed twice. Twice. The editing program crashed first and just got stuck, and then everything in my computer got stuck. And then I tried to do a restart, and it kind of started restarting, and then it didn't, and then it crashed again. And so then we went through it again, and it's getting later and later on Monday, and I've gotten the friendly reminder email to, hey Kayla, don't forget that's due. And I was like, I know, I did this to myself. Now, will I remember this for the next deadline? No.
I will.
You know what? You giving me parameters is so much easier to follow. There's that not wanting to disappoint you, not wanting to get in trouble, feeling submissive. Somebody else who's paying me gives me a deadline is not as serious to my brain
Wow.
as my daddy Dom giving me a deadline.
Wow.
Somebody make that make sense. So yeah, that was my Monday. I didn't finish work till like 10 o'clock because the edits were, because I knew what I needed to do. I've now done this before. So I was like, okay, I got this. I can edit this. This is fine. This is fine. And I was feeling really good about these edits, but there were 4 rounds of them to get it tweaked down. So I stayed within the time limit, and have the whole fucking thing make sense, you know? But then it took so long to export the file.
Yeah.
And then upload it.
With that
and then
thing.
and then I sent the at 10 o'clock at night. I'm so sorry. My computer, my editing software. I'm so sorry, but here it is now. I'm so sorry. So.
And I sat with her.
You did.
Yeah.
You did. There would have been a good chance that even though I was brain dead by the time I got finished that, I kept sitting there finding little nitpicky things anyway. You do. I appreciate that about you. I think it helps because I feel guilty. You'll sit there sometimes when you know I gotta work longer, but you don't want me to work too fucking long. So I appreciate it, but also I do feel guilty because I'm like, he wants to be sitting on the couch doing his thing. I guess I better wrap up.
Huh. Didn't know I had that kind of effect.
Using your power for good instead of evil.
Yep.
Lola is snoring. Snoring back there.
I thought it was hilarious. She was on the couch sleeping this morning, and our Roomba started up. And that thing's noisy. It's an older...
I think it's not quite 10 years old, but could be close to 10 years old.
Very close. Very close to that edge. I've kept it going.
Replace battery, replace this, replace that, clean that. Yeah.
Yep. And but it's noisy as it lumbers around the house, and she was just there with her eyes closed tight, and I knew she was asleep because her ears were down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's faking it if her ears are up.
Yeah. And she was just dead asleep, snoring while the Roomba's just running around.
Yep. So
Kitty Rose's body doubling is good. And I didn't even think of it in that aspect.
no, we think of it specifically for the youngest because that's how he gets schoolwork done. I'm not going to go into it because I stayed calm yesterday, but I would get mad now.
There was a little kerfuffle.
There was a little
kerfuffle.
Yeah. So he's back on track now, and it requires body doubling. It's fine. We'll get it done.
Yep.
I knew that for him.
Yeah.
The oldest, he's a little bit like me, or I guess I would say I prefer to be solitary. He kind of prefers to be solitary, like you don't want to be perceived while he's doing shit.
Mm-hmm.
But at least for finishing up, I guess it is body doubling. I just never thought of it in terms of
that aspect.
When I'm by myself and feel like I can focus, I don't need or want anybody around me. I'm also that person who does not like to be perceived when I'm folding laundry, exercising, cleaning. I don't know why those specific things. But if there's anybody in the room / house, I can't do the thing. I have to go where nobody can see me doing it. I don't know why. I just know.
Excuse me.
That's a thing. But yeah, so nothing major, thankfully.
No.
And
it's all been good. We've just been trucking along.
Yeah. Which is kind of nice to be able to say that. Mm-hmm. It's, know, a much calmer life than going, oh my God, let me tell you about this week's dumpster fire. We're straddling that line of how do we stay informed in today's world as things seem to burn down around our ears versus how do we protect our mental health enough that we can continue functioning. Yeah. It's a fine line, and we don't know
it is.
if we're on it.
We just adjust as we go.
Yeah. I had to set a boundary with JB. Yeah. I was like, I know you want to talk about all of the outrages that are occurring. You can't come to me one by one with everyone you discover. I can't handle it. I said, let's set times where we will discuss these things and you'll go, what the fuck? And I'll go, I know. And then I'll go, what the fuck? And you'll go, yeah, same. Yeah. And we'll talk about it, but we won't do it every 10 minutes because I can't do it every 10 minutes.
No. and I'm looking at other ways, to handle some of this stuff. I've started journaling. Mm-hmm. And tonight I'll be on a Zoom call with Equality Florida. Mm-hmm. That they're doing an open Zoom call here in Florida because they're trying to pass more laws. But anywho,
yeah, I feel like I can feel smoke. Coming out of my ears right now.
But Lola's doing good. She is adjusting well to her new medication. Yeah. Her pain medication. Yeah. Really seems to be helping her a lot. Oh my God. Last night she got the zoomies. Oh my gosh. She was hunkered down and serious.
She's a big old girl. You don't want her to tackle you. You're going down.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I learned long ago when she gets like that, she does like to body slam. Mm-hmm. And when I see her coming at me in that, I gotta
brace yourself.
brace myself for it. Yeah, because she's losing weight, but she's still a chunky girl, and she hits you like that, boy.
Yeah, she comes in like a wrecking ball, y'all.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she does.
But she's happier, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think she has a bit more energy. It's what I notice is she still kind of sleeps like a cat. But when she's awake, she's more lively.
Right.
I don't feel like I'm seeing her sleep any less though.
No.
She's still sleeping a lot.
Yeah. Yep. The one thing I can definitely say has diminished is her paw licking.
Yeah. Oh God, that's the most disgusting sound on the planet.
Yeah. I mean, she still does it a little bit, but not to the extent that she was doing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's doing well. Ella and Onyx, well, they are terrors.
Especially with one another.
Yeah.
But they're still good. They're sleeping side by side on our bed, so can't be all bad.
No.
So, it's all same old. Mm-hmm. In a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing else.
I think that's about it. You
I
know,
think that's more than enough.
yeah.
Um,
So, just we say goodbye and let these good folks carry on with the rest of their day, evening
life.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here,
Mm-hmm.
especially to the bitter end.
Yeah.
We appreciate you.
We do.
Especially when
really
we do episodes like this where it's pure navel gazing. It's like, oh, this thing is very important to me and about me. Hopefully it might inspire somebody to go do some little baby experiments themselves. See how you feel. You just made
I just remembered something.
Is it bad or is it good?
No.
Okay.
We did a resin pour yesterday afternoon. It's still in the...
Oh, I meant to ask you about that.
all about it. Okay.
We got some handles we got to go
Yep.
get. Okay, y'all.
Anyway.
We'll see y'all
for joining us, and we'll see y'all next
week.
time.
Yep. Bye.